A story about finding meaning, an emotional life journey, a mysterious self-discovery story. General Hawthorne insisted the gesture was exclusive to SEALs, but when Sarah Mitchell flashed it back at him, everything stopped, and what she reveals next changes everything. This is where her real story begins. Sarah Mitchell felt the heat of the afternoon sun cling to her skin as she walked across the training field, boots sinking slightly into the dirt with each step. Everything around her smelled of metal, sweat, cut grass, the strange perfume of places where people tried to become stronger versions of themselves. But under that scent lived something colder. The familiar pressure in her chest she carried everywhere, the one she never spoke about. She stayed quiet, blending into the line of recruits, ears tuned to the rhythm of their breathing, heartbeats steady but wired, always wired. She didn't mind the noise though. The noise helped drown out the memories. At the podium, General Hawthorne moved like a man carved from old military stone, rigid shoulders, measured steps, eyes sharp enough to slice through armor. Sarah had seen that look before, on men who lived long enough to fear nothing except ghosts of their own past. He scanned the lines of trainees, the way predators scanned tall grass. And then of course his eyes found her, not because she stood out. She never allowed herself that mistake, but because Hawthorne had the uncanny ability to notice the one person who didn't want to be noticed. Sarah kept her gaze forward, breath controlled. She had practiced this calm for years, shaping herself into someone ordinary, someone clean, someone the world didn't question. And then Hawthorne did something unexpected. He raised his hand, not a wave, not an instruction, a gesture, two fingers angled, thumb tucked, emotion clipped and barely visible. A SEAL ghost signal, a silent language fragment known only to a sliver of the world. A gesture Sarah should not have known, a gesture she had tried to forget. Hawthorne lifted it slowly, as if testing her, as if daring her. Sarah felt a pulse run down her spine, the exact sensation she used to get before stepping into simulations far more dangerous than anything happening on this base. He thinks nobody knows this, she realized. He thinks he's safe testing this in public. But something was wrong. The cadence, the angle, the slight hesitation. He was doing it wrong. She didn't plan to respond. She didn't want to respond. But habits carved through bone don't dissolve just because life gets rearranged. She felt the correction ripple up her hand before her mind could stop it. In one smooth motion, tiny, precise, unmistakable, she mirrored the gesture back. Exact, perfect, unquestionable. Hawthorne froze mid-breath. The entire courtyard went silent, though no one other than him understood what just happened. But Sarah saw it instantly, the calculation in his eyes, the shock cracking through the general's mask. The gesture was restricted, classified, exclusive to SEALs, and Sarah Mitchell had just answered it flawlessly. Hawthorne's stare sharpened into something dangerous, not anger, not suspicion, but recognition, the kind that cut deeper than accusation. He stepped forward. "Recruit." His voice dipped, almost a whisper. "Where did you learn that?" Sarah didn't blink. Some truths live like splinters, buried deep, but still sharp enough to bleed if touched, and Hawthorne had just pressed hard. Before she could respond, something shifted in the air. A murmur spread through the recruits as the general called her forward. "Mitchell, step out." Her body moved on its own, quiet and controlled, the way she was trained, the way she had promised herself she'd never move again. She stopped in front of him. His shadow fell across her boots. "That gesture," he said softly, "is restricted. SEALs only. It does not exist outside Tier 1 units." His eyes narrowed. "So tell me, Mitchell, how do you know it?" Sarah felt the old world pressing against the new one, the life she buried scraping against the one she tried to build. Her throat tightened. She could lie. She could deflect. She could say she saw it in a documentary. But Hawthorne wasn't asking as a general. He was asking as a man who recognized ghosts when he saw them. Sarah inhaled once. "Deep. Steady, sir," she began. But before she could finish, a voice cut through the air from the far end of the field. "General Hawthorne." Urgent call from command. He looked torn between leaving and finishing what he had started. He chose command. But as he stepped back, his final words sliced through the courtyard like a warning shot. "We're not done, Mitchell." Sarah stood there alone, pulse hammering because she knew he was right. They were not done, not even close. If you're drawn to emotional storytelling and slow burn mystery, keep watching this faceless YouTube story. More twists are coming. Sarah sat on the edge of her bunk that night, boots still on, elbows resting on her knees. The barracks hummed with low conversation, recruits trading stories, jokes, worries, but her mind remained locked on Hawthorne's eyes. The instant he recognized something she spent years hiding. The gesture, the mistake, the past pressing its fingers against the walls she built. She tried to breathe slow, but the rhythm refused to cooperate. Across the room, her bunkmate Rivera tossed a towel aside. "You good, Mitchell? You look like someone drew your number in a firing squad." Sarah forced a thin smile. "Long day," Rivera shrugged. "General Hawthorne stared at you like he saw your soul running laps." "Did he?" Sarah said lightly, but inside the comment struck hard, because it felt true. Hawthorne didn't notice people, he dissected them. He recognized training people shouldn't have instincts people shouldn't display, and she had displayed them. A rookie mistake. As the lights dimmed, Sarah lay back, staring at the ceiling. The air tasted like metal and the faint citrus of industrial cleaner familiar, grounding, but it couldn't smother the memories cracking open beneath her ribs. Her mother's voice, the night everything changed. Her father's last message, the training that wasn't supposed to exist. The choice she made to disappear into an ordinary path. A path that was no longer ordinary. Morning arrived with the blast of a whistle. As Sarah stepped into formation, she felt Hawthorne's presence before she saw him. The courtyard buzzed with static tension. Everyone sensed something had shifted. "Mitchell," he called, not waiting for the instructors. "Walk with me." Recruits exchanged glances, disbelief, envy, curiosity. Rivera mouthed a silent good luck, though Sarah wasn't sure if she meant it or if she thought Sarah was about to be court-martialed. The general led her toward the far edge of the courtyard, where the wind carried the scent of damp soil and diesel. He spoke without turning. "You didn't answer my question yesterday. I didn't get the chance, sir." He halted, looked at her, really looked. That gesture has never been shown to anyone outside Special Warfare Command. It is deliberately absent from training manuals, simulations, and official briefings. Yet you answered it with perfect precision. His jaw tightened. "I want the truth." Sarah's pulse thudded. The truth was heavy, fragile, dangerous. She swallowed slowly. Permission to speak candidly. Granted, I didn't learn it from any unauthorized contact. She paused. "I learned it before I knew what it meant." Hawthorne frowned. "Explain." She inhaled, tasting the bitterness of old fear rising in her throat. "My father used it. Not with units. With me. He never explained it. He'd use it when he needed silence, or when danger was near." Her voice softened. "I thought it was a way of keeping me calm." Hawthorne blinked, thrown off balance for the first time. "Your father? Who was he?" Not someone recorded in any public roster. Not someone command ever acknowledged. But someone your people knew existed. He stared, confused and cautious. "Sir," she continued, "my father wasn't a SEAL. He worked with a program darker than that. Off-book. Buried." She held his gaze. The gesture was the only piece of his world. He didn't lock away from me. Hawthorne stepped back as if the ground shifted beneath him. "Mitchell, what program?" Her throat clenched. She shouldn't say the name. She wasn't supposed to even think it. And yet before she could answer, a voice crackled through the base intercom. "General Hawthorne, command requires your presence immediately. Priority 1. Hawthorne exhaled sharply. "This isn't over," he said. His voice didn't hide the tension. "We finished this conversation privately." He walked off, boots striking the pavement like gunshots. Sarah stood alone in the morning light, heart pounding. She knew what came next. The past wasn't done with her. It had just found her again. Asterisk. If emotional storytelling and slow burn mystery pull you in, follow this faceless Yataba Canal. Asterisk. General Hawthorne reached his office with a storm brewing behind his ribcage. The Priority 1 call hadn't been a request, it was a directive. And directives from command rarely came without blood underneath. He shut the door behind him, keyed in his 6-digit clearance, and the screen on his desk lit up with the same name he hadn't thought about in years. Operation Silent Warden, Archive, ACC. Breath hitched. Impossible. Silent Warden was dead, closed, erased. The only reason anyone revisited and erased program was if something dangerous resurfaced. And right now, the most dangerous variable had a name. Sarah Mitchell. Hawthorne clicked the file. Redacted lines. Black bars, gaps where history had been burned, but one detail remained. Asterisk. Operative designation, Warden 1-7. Status, deceased dependents. One unidentified juvenile female. Hawthorne froze. One dependent female. Unidentified. Sarah Mitchell's father. He closed the file sharply, jaw locked. Years ago, Silent Warden operatives worked outside sanctioned units, covert extraction, deep threat neutralization, black missions that never touched daylight. They communicated using signals older than SEAL training, signals meant for operatives trained to sit inside the bones of danger without leaving a trace, and Sarah had used one of those signals flawlessly. He rubbed his temples. What have you walked into, girl? Meanwhile, Sarah moved through combat drills like a ghost, precise, silent, detached. This wasn't training for her, it was instinct. Her body knew how to move before her mind caught up. Rivera noticed it immediately. You're different today, she whispered during a water break. Like you're here, but not here. I'm fine, Sarah said, though her voice sounded far away. You always say that, but your eyes say something else. Sarah clenched the water bottle until the plastic crackled. Drop it, Rivera. Rivera lifted her hands. Fine, but if something's going down, I want to know. You're not the type who snaps because of a push-up. Sarah forced a breath. She appreciated Rivera more than she'd ever admit. Just a rough night. Rivera didn't buy it, but she nodded anyway. Later, during tactical navigation drills, an instructor barked new coordinates. Recruits scattered through the woods north of the training zone, compasses and maps in hand. Sarah walked deeper into the trees, letting her mind settle into the rhythm of movement. Quiet, direction, breath, focus. But halfway through the course, she felt it. Someone watching, not instructor-level observation. Something sharper, more deliberate. She pivoted subtly, scanning the tree line. Nothing moved, but she felt the weight of intent pressing from the shadows, a presence she recognized from a different life. Then a twig snapped, not accidental, a signal. Sarah's heart stopped. That sequence, that pattern, 3 clicks, pause, 2 clicks, a silent warden contact signal. She backed up slowly, pulse rising. This wasn't possible. The unit was dissolved. Operatives, scattered or dead. Anyone still using the signal was dangerous. She reached for her radio, but static hissed, jammed. A whisper floated between the trees, low and calm. Warden 17's daughter. You're not as hidden as you think. Sarah froze. Every memory she buried clawed its way to the surface. Her father's warning, his last night home, the whisper he pressed into her hair before leaving forever. If they ever find you, run. But she wasn't running anymore. She stood perfectly still, body coiled, eyes scanning for the source. Behind her, a shadow shifted. Turn around, Mitchell, the voice said. We need to talk. Sarah's breath shook. Whoever they were, they knew exactly who she was, and what she was. Asterisk, if you're hooked by this emotional, mysterious life-meaning story, don't stop now. The next parts push the suspense and personal stakes even higher in this faceless YouTube story. Asterisk, Sarah didn't turn immediately. She let the voice settle into the space between them, feeling its contour, its cadence. Fear and recognition lived inside the same breath. Whoever this was didn't just know her lineage, they knew the program. Slowly, she pivoted. A man stepped out from the shadowed underbrush. Late 40s, weathered face, hair clipped short. Not military regulation, but military bone deep. His stance carried the unmistakable weight of someone who had survived things most people would never imagine. He wore plain fatigues, no insignia. That detail alone scraped her nerves raw. Ghost operatives never wore identifiers. He raised his hands casually, palms open. Relax. If I wanted to grab you, you wouldn't have heard me. That's comforting, Sarah said, voice low, steady. He smirked. Still sharp, good. His eyes scanned her face like he was checking for the version of her he remembered. You look like him, you know. Warden 17, my father had a name, she said sharply. Names die. Designations don't. His tone didn't soften. Ghost operatives didn't apologize. They stated facts. What do you want? A warning. He stepped closer, boots silent on the forest floor. Hawthorne has the old files. Once he opens them and he will command, will realize you didn't disappear like they planned. Cold slid down Sarah's spine. I left the program legally, she said. You don't leave. Silent warden, his eyes hardened. You were a contingency asset, a child. The only one they ever classified. She clenched her fists. I'm not an asset. You were never supposed to believe you were. That was the point. He exhaled slowly. But now that you're here, visible, traceable, they'll see you as a liability. Who is they? She demanded. He hesitated, the first real crack in his armor. Before he could answer, shouting erupted behind them, instructors calling the recruits back for debrief. The man's head snapped toward the sound. Time's up. He stepped back into the shadow he'd emerged from. Tell Hawthorne nothing. And whatever you think you know about your father, you only know the part they allowed. Sarah lunged forward. Tell me who you are. He paused at the tree line, expression unreadable. I was Warden 11, his gaze locked with hers. And your father didn't die in the field. He was removed. Removed. Not killed. Removed. Sarah's breath shattered before she could speak. He disappeared into the trees as if he had never existed. The forest went silent, but Sarah Mitchell's world had just been torn open. Asterisk if this mysterious, emotional suspense story is pulling you in. Don't miss part 5, the truth about silent warden titans around Sarah, and the emotional stakes explode. Asterisk General Hawthorne stood alone in his office, palms pressed against the desk. The file he'd opened, the one stamped with warnings, redactions, and digital locks, was still glowing on the screen. Silent Warden, a program he'd believed was buried years ago, a program that had turned soldiers into shadows, ghosts into weapons, and families into collateral damage, and Sarah Mitchell was tied to it. He replayed her words in the courtyard, her precision with the ghost signal, the haunted way she carried herself. None of it matched the profile of a standard recruit. She moved like someone trained young, someone shaped, not taught. He needed answers. A soft knock tore through the tension. "Enter," he said. Sarah stepped in, posture tight, eyes controlled, too controlled. Hawthorne motioned for her to close the door. She did, quietly. "We're continuing yesterday's conversation," he said. "And I need the truth, Mitchell. No more evasions." She didn't speak immediately. Instead, she studied him, weighing risk, calculating truth against consequence. Then she sat down slowly. "I wasn't honest about my father," she began. Her voice was quieter now, not weak, but stripped of armor. "He wasn't a SEAL. He wasn't even officially military." Hawthorne leaned forward. Silent Warden, her head snapped up. He watched the color drain from her face. "You know," she whispered. "I know part of it," he admitted. "Not enough, not what they hid, but enough to understand that you were born into something dark." Sarah inhaled sharply. "He tried to keep me away from it. He did everything he could. But when I was 9, someone from the program found us. After that, he trained me in pieces. Not to make me a soldier. To make me survive." Hawthorne's stomach twisted. "Survive what?" She hesitated, then whispered the truth. "They told him one day he would have to give me up. That I would be taken, molded into their next generation prototype. He refused." Her voice broke slightly. "They punished him for that refusal." Hawthorne's hand curled into a fist. "Sarah, what happened to him?" Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. "They didn't kill him in combat, sir. They erased him, like he never lived, and they meant to erase me, too." Silence settled like ash. Hawthorne exhaled slowly. "And you believe they'll come back?" "I don't believe," she said. "I know." He sat back, the weight of her truth crashing over him. Command was already sniffing around Silent Warden archives. The man she encountered in the woods, though she didn't mention him, confirmed something more terrifying. "This wasn't coincidence. It was a countdown," Mitchell Hawthorne said softly. "I'm going to protect you. But to do that, I need everything." Sarah trembled for the first time since he met her. "Sir," she whispered, "if I tell you everything, you'll become a target too." Hawthorne didn't blink. "Then we face it together." Sarah looked up, startled, shaken, and something else, relieved. But before she could speak, the base alarms exploded. Silent Warden had found her. Red emergency lights flooded the base, turning concrete and metal into a pulsing red maze. Boots thundered, radios crackled, instructors shouted orders over the sirens. But the panic had a strange pattern, too coordinated, too efficient. This wasn't a drill. Sarah stood frozen for a single heartbeat before instinct slammed into her. "They're here," she whispered. Hawthorne grabbed her shoulder. "Mitchell, who is they?" She didn't answer. She couldn't, because she already knew what was happening. Silent Warden extraction. Protocol. Non-lethal. Fast. Precise. And always executed by ghosts. "Follow me," Hawthorne ordered. They moved through the corridor as soldiers mobilized, confusion spreading like wildfire. When they reached the reinforced door to the intel wing, Hawthorne keyed his override code, but the panel flickered. Jammed. Sarah stepped forward. "Step back." She pulled a hairpin-sized metal strip from her boot, something she wasn't supposed to have, and slid it into the panel. A few quick motions, a short spark. The lock clicked open. Hawthorne stared at her. "Where did you learn that?" She didn't answer. Inside, the intel room was dark except for the glow of a single monitor. A message pulsed on the screen. Warden-17. Failed. Retrieve the asset. Protocol. Reclamation.